Jiho Kim stared at the acceptance letter in his hands for the 10th time that morning. The Seoul National University Interspecies Exchange Program had chosen him as one of 50 students to live with an alien roommate. 3 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Federation, and now alien students were coming to human universities for the first time. "You're crazy," his best friend Do-hyun said, watching Jiho pack his bags. "What if your roommate eats humans for breakfast?" Jiho laughed and folded another shirt. "The Federation screened all the species. They only sent peaceful ones. Besides, I'm studying xenobiology. This is perfect for my research." Do-hyun shook his head. "Just because they're peaceful doesn't mean they're normal. What if they have weird habits? What if they smell bad?" "Then I'll deal with it," Jiho replied. "How many humans get this chance? I could be the first person to document close contact with an alien species." The dormitory building looked normal from the outside, but inside, everything had changed. Special air filters hummed in the walls. Signs were written in multiple languages, including symbols Jiho couldn't read. Human students walked past carrying translation devices and cultural guidebooks. Yuna Lee, the dormitory supervisor, met Jiho at the front desk. She was a serious woman in her 30s who carried herself like someone used to handling problems. "Kim Jiho?" she asked, checking her tablet. "Room 314. Your roommate arrives in 1 hour. Her name is Nira, and she's from the Valerian species. Here's your cultural briefing packet." Jiho took the thick folder. "What should I know about Valerians?" "They're humanoid but taller than humans, with silver skin and some telepathic abilities. They value honor and have strict social customs." The packet explains everything else. Yuna's phone buzzed. "Excuse me. 3 more alien students are arriving today, and the Coraxian delegation is having problems with our gravity settings." Jiho climbed to the 3rd floor and found his room. It was larger than normal dorm rooms, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and what looked like environmental controls he didn't recognize. He unpacked his belongings and tried to read the cultural briefing, but the academic language made his head spin. An hour later, voices echoed from the hallway. Jiho heard Yuna speaking, then a deeper voice responding in accented Korean. He opened his door and saw them approaching. The alien was definitely humanoid, but unlike anything Jiho had imagined. She stood nearly 6 feet tall, with smooth silver skin that seemed to shimmer under the hallway lights. Her hair was white and pulled back in a complex braid. Her eyes were larger than human eyes and completely black. She wore a simple blue outfit that looked both foreign and elegant. "Jiho, meet Nira," Yuna said. "Nira, this is your roommate Jiho Kim." Nira looked at Jiho for a long moment. Her black eyes seemed to study every detail of his face. Then she stepped forward and placed her hand flat against his chest over his heart. "I recognize you," she said in careful Korean. "You are my bonded protector." Jiho blinked in confusion. "I'm sorry, what?" Nira kept her hand on his chest. Her palm felt warm through his shirt. "The bond is made. I claim you as mine and you accept me as yours." Jiho looked at Yuna for help, but she seemed just as confused. Is this a normal greeting?" he asked. "I don't know," Yuna admitted. "The cultural briefings didn't mention anything like this." Nira stepped back and bowed formally. "Forgive me. Your language is still difficult. I meant to say, you are my protector and I am your charge. It is decided." "Okay," Jiho said slowly. He didn't understand, but she seemed sincere. "Nice to meet you too, Nira." Yuna helped them carry Nira's belongings into the room. The alien had brought very little, a few clothes, some books written in symbols Jiho couldn't read, and a small device that hummed softly. "That's a translation unit," Nira explained when she noticed Jiho staring at it. "But I prefer to practice your language. I studied for 2 years before coming here." "Your Korean is very good," Jiho said honestly. "Better than my English." Nira smiled, and Jiho noticed her teeth were slightly sharper than human teeth. "Thank you. You are kind. I sensed this about you immediately." "Sensed?" "My people have, how do you say, mind touch abilities. Not strong in me, but enough to feel emotions. You have a protective spirit. When you helped with my heavy bag, I felt your genuine wish to help. This is why the bond formed." Jiho remembered grabbing her large suitcase when she struggled with it. That was just being polite. "No," Nira said firmly. "Politeness is surface action. You felt real concern for a stranger's difficulty. This is rare." For the next hour, they arranged the room and tried to establish basic routines. Nira had specific dietary needs and sleep cycles that didn't match human patterns. She needed less sleep but required meditation periods during the day. She also kept the room several degrees cooler than Jiho preferred. Everything seemed manageable until Yuna returned with bad news. "I'm sorry, but there's been a bureaucratic problem," she announced. "The housing office made an error. Nira, we need to move you to a different room until we can sort this out." Nira's reaction was immediate and startling. Her silver skin seemed to pale and she grabbed Jiho's arm. "No," she said urgently. "The bond cannot be broken." "Not like this. It's just temporary," Yuna explained. "Maybe a few days while we fix the paperwork." "You don't understand." Nira's grip on Jiho's arm tightened. "In my culture, a soul bond must be properly established. If it is broken too soon, both bonded individuals suffer psychological damage. Sometimes permanent," Yuna frowned. "Soul bond?" "The cultural briefings didn't mention anything about soul bonds." "Because my people rarely bond with other species," Nira said. "But when it happens, it is sacred. To break it now would be cruel." Jiho looked at Nira's distressed face, then at Yuna's skeptical expression. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he could see that Nira was genuinely frightened. "What if I vouch for the arrangement?" he asked. "I signed up for the cultural exchange program. Having an alien roommate was the whole point." "It's not that simple," Yuna replied. "The housing office has specific protocols." "Then change the protocols," Jiho said, surprising himself with his firmness. "You said the program was about building understanding between species. How does traumatizing an alien student on her first day build understanding?" Yuna studied both of them for a moment. Nira hadn't let go of Jiho's arm, and her black eyes were fixed on his face with an intensity that made him feel responsible for her well-being. "I'll make some calls," Yuna finally said. "But this arrangement needs to be properly documented. And if there are any problems, any at all, we'll have to reconsider." After Yuna left, Nira finally released Jiho's arm. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You protected me again." The bond grows stronger. Jiho sat on his bed trying to process everything that had happened. "Nira, what exactly is a soul bond? What does it mean for us?" Nira sat across from him, her expression serious. "It means we are connected now. Your well-being affects mine and mine affects yours. We will understand each other in ways others cannot. But it also means responsibility." "What kind of responsibility?" "You must help me succeed here and I must help you. We share honor and shame. Your achievements become mine and mine become yours." She paused. "In my culture, this is a great privilege. But I understand if humans see it differently." Jiho looked at her earnest face and felt something shift inside him. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe responsibility, or maybe something he couldn't name yet. But he knew he couldn't abandon her now. "I guess we'll figure it out together," he said. Nira's smile was radiant. "Yes, together." Living with Nira was nothing like Jiho had expected. The first week brought a series of surprises that left him confused, exhausted, and strangely fascinated. Every morning, Jiho woke to find breakfast waiting on his desk. Not ordinary breakfast, but elaborate meals that Nira had somehow prepared using the small cooking unit in their room. The food looked strange, but tasted incredible. Grains he couldn't identify. Fruits that seemed to change flavor as he chewed, and protein sources that might have been meat or might have been something else entirely. "You don't have to cook for me," he told her on the third morning, watching her arrange colorful items on his plate with artistic precision. "It is my duty," Nira replied without looking up. "A bonded protector must be properly nourished. Your human diet lacks 17 essential nutrients that strengthen mental resilience." Jiho bit into something that tasted like a cross between an apple and cinnamon. "Where do you even get this food?" "The Federation Supply Center. They import foods for all species." She finally looked at him. "You like it?" "It's amazing," he admitted. "But really, you don't need to." "I need to," she interrupted. "It is not about requirement. It is about care." That was the problem, Jiho realized. Everything Nira did came from a place of genuine care, which made it impossible to object without seeming ungrateful. She also reorganized his schedule. Somehow she had memorized his class times, study habits, and assignment deadlines. She created a color-coded calendar that maximized his efficiency and included time for proper meals, exercise, and what she called mental maintenance periods. "How did you know I had a chemistry exam next week?" Jiho asked, staring at the calendar she had posted on their wall. "You study chemistry every Tuesday and Thursday evening. You become more stressed on Tuesdays, which suggests weekly testing. Simple observation. That's actually really helpful. Nira's expression brightened. Good. Tonight I will help you study. Valerian memory techniques are very effective for chemical formulas. The memory techniques turned out to be incredible. Nira taught him to create mental images that linked chemical structures to physical sensations. Within 2 hours, Jiho had memorized more formulas than he usually learned in a week. This is amazing, he said, successfully reciting a complex organic chemistry sequence. How do you do this? Valerian brains process information differently than human brains, Nira explained. But your mind is more flexible. You adapt to new methods quickly. This surprises me. Why does it surprise you? Nira hesitated. My people believe humans are limited, but you learn faster than my instructors predicted. The comment bothered Jiho, but before he could ask more questions, Do-Yun arrived for his daily check-in. Jiho's best friend had made it his mission to monitor the alien situation, as he called it. She's cooking for you again, Do-Hyun observed, noting the dinner preparation in progress. And organizing your stuff. Jiho, this isn't normal roommate behavior. It's her culture, Jiho said. She's being helpful. Too helpful. Look at this calendar she made. She's planning your entire life. Do-Hyun lowered his voice. I did some research on Valerian culture. These soul bonds you mentioned? They're permanent, like for life permanent. Jiho glanced at Nira, who was pretending not to listen while cutting strange vegetables. What do you mean, permanent? I mean, you're basically married in alien law now. Valerian bonds carry legal obligations. If you ever want to travel to Valerian space, you'd be considered her family. And if something happens to one of you, the other one suffers psychological damage. That's ridiculous, Jiho said, but he felt a chill. We barely know each other. Tell her that, Do-Hyun replied. Because from what I read, she's probably planning your future together. That evening, Jiho tried to bring up the topic while Nira helped him with homework. She was explaining quantum mechanics using Valerian mathematical concepts that made the subject surprisingly clear. Nira, he began carefully. Do-Hyun told me some things about Valerian bonds. He said they're permanent. Nira's hand stilled on the textbook. What did he tell you exactly? That we're basically married now? That there are legal obligations? Jiho watched her face. Is that true? Not married, Nira said slowly. Valerian bonds are different from human marriage. But yes, they are permanent. And yes, there are obligations. What kind of obligations? Nira was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than usual. Mutual protection, shared resources, emotional support during crisis. If one dies, the other mourns for exactly 1 year before being allowed to form new bonds. Jiho felt his stomach drop. 1 year of mourning? What does that mean? Complete isolation from society. No work, no relationships, no normal activities. It is difficult. Nira, I didn't agree to this. I didn't even know what was happening. Nira's silver skin seemed to lose some of its shimmer. I know. Human customs are different. I should have explained better. But the bond, it formed naturally. I felt your protective instinct and my mind responded automatically. By the time I could think clearly, it was already established. Can it be broken? The question hung in the air between them. Nira stared at her hands and Jiho noticed they were trembling slightly. Yes, she whispered, but the process is unpleasant and it must be done by Valerian authorities. What happens during the process? Mental separation. They use technology to sever the telepathic connection. For Valerians, it is painful but survivable. For other species, she shrugged, there is no data. You would be the first human to attempt it. Jiho felt a mixture of anger and sympathy. Anger at being trapped in something he hadn't chosen, and sympathy for Nira, who looked genuinely distressed. I need to think about this, he said. Nira nodded and returned to her side of the room. For the first time since her arrival, she didn't wish him good night. The next morning brought a new crisis. Jiho woke to raised voices in the hallway. Through the door, he could hear Yuna arguing with someone who spoke in a deep, authoritative voice. The bond is illegitimate, the voice was saying. The human lacks proper understanding of Valerian customs. The female will return with us immediately. Jiho quickly dressed and opened the door. In the hallway stood Yuna, looking frustrated, and a tall Valerian male in what appeared to be a military uniform. He was even taller than Nira, with broader shoulders and silver skin that looked like polished metal. Behind him stood 2 other Valerians in similar uniforms. Jiho, Yuna said with relief. This is Commander Kale. He's here about Nira. Commander Kale looked at Jiho with obvious disdain. You are the human who claims bond rights with Nira of the Fourth House? I'm her roommate, Jiho said carefully. If that's what you mean. Roommate. Commander Kale's voice made the word sound like an insult. Humans reduce sacred bonds to sleeping arrangements. This proves the bond is false. What do you want? Jiho asked. To correct a mistake, Nira will return to Valerian space for proper re-education. The false bond will be severed, and she will be matched with an appropriate partner of her own species. Jiho felt something surge inside him, the same protective instinct that had made him help Nira with her luggage, but stronger now. What if she doesn't want to go? Commander Kale's black eyes narrowed. What she wants is irrelevant. She has disgraced her family by bonding beneath her station. The situation will be corrected. Beneath her station? Jiho's voice rose. What's that supposed to mean? It means humans are barely civilized by Valerian standards. You have no telepathic abilities, no understanding of proper social order, and no concept of honor. Nira's bond with you is an embarrassment to her entire bloodline. That was when Jiho heard a soft gasp behind him. He turned to see Nira standing in their doorway, still in her sleep clothes, staring at Commander Kale with obvious fear. Uncle, she said quietly, I didn't know you were coming. Gather your belongings, Commander Kale ordered. We leave within the hour. No, Jiho said, stepping between them. She's a student here. She has rights, Commander Kale laughed. Rights? Human law has no authority over Valerian citizens, and Valerian law says that improper bonds must be dissolved immediately. The bond isn't improper, Jiho said, surprising himself with his certainty. It might be unusual, but it's real. Nira told me so herself. Real or not, it will be ended. Commander Kale moved toward Nira, but Jiho didn't step aside. If you want to take her, Jiho said, his heart pounding, you'll have to go through me first. The hallway fell silent. Commander Kale stared at Jiho in apparent amazement, as if a pet had suddenly started talking back. Yuna looked terrified, and Nira was staring at Jiho with an expression he couldn't read. You would challenge Valerian authority? Commander Kale asked slowly. A human would stand against a species that has conquered half the galaxy. If that's what it takes to protect Nira, Jiho said, then yes. Commander Kale studied Jiho for a long moment. Then unexpectedly he smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Interesting, he said. Perhaps this bond has more merit than I thought. Very well, human. If you truly believe yourself worthy of Nira, prove it. How? Traditional Valerian trials. 3 tests of worthiness. Pass them all and I will recognize your bond as legitimate. Fail any of them and Nira returns with me immediately. Jiho looked at Nira, who gave him a barely perceptible nod. What kind of tests? He asked. The first trial took place in the university gymnasium, which Commander Kale had somehow convinced the administration to clear for the afternoon. Word had spread quickly through the dormitory, and a small crowd of human and alien students gathered to watch. The trial of mental resilience, Commander Kale announced, gesturing to a strange device his subordinates had set up in the center of the room. It looked like a chair surrounded by floating metal rings that hummed with energy. You will experience the worst fears of your subconscious mind. Most humans break within minutes. Jiho looked at the device nervously. What happens if I break? Mental trauma. Possible permanent psychological damage. Commander Kale's expression showed no sympathy. Still confident in your bond claim? Jiho glanced at Nira, who stood nearby with her hands clasped tightly together. Her silver skin had taken on a pale, worried shade. You don't have to do this, she whispered. I can return with them. The bond can be severed safely on my homeworld. No, Jiho said firmly. You don't want to go back. I can see it in your face. My wants are not important. They are to me. Jiho walked toward the device. How does this work? One of the Valerian technicians explained the process. The device would read his brainwaves and create illusions based on his deepest fears. He had to remain conscious and rational for 30 minutes while experiencing whatever his mind conjured up. Most Valerians find this difficult, the technician said. For humans, it may be impossible. Jiho sat in the chair and felt the metal rings position themselves around his head. The humming grew louder, and suddenly the gymnasium disappeared. He was back in his childhood home, but everything was wrong. The walls were too tall, the shadows too dark. His parents sat at the kitchen table, but their faces were disappointed and cold. "You're a failure," his mother said in a voice that didn't sound like hers. "We spent everything on your education, and this is how you repay us? Living with aliens embarrassing our family? You were supposed to be successful," his father added. "Instead, you're playing house with a creature that doesn't even see you as human." The illusion shifted. He was in his first day of university, but instead of other students, the classroom was filled with aliens who pointed and laughed at him. Their voices echoed primitive human, weak human, useless human. Then he was alone in a vast empty space, calling for Nira but getting no answer. The loneliness was crushing, absolute. He felt like the last human in the universe, forgotten and abandoned, but something was different about these fears compared to normal nightmares. Jiho could feel that they weren't real, even while experiencing them. The device showed him his fears, but it couldn't make him believe them completely. Instead of fighting the illusions, he began to analyze them. Why was he afraid of disappointing his parents? Because he loved them and wanted their approval. Why did he fear alien mockery? Because he respected alien intelligence and wanted to prove humans had value. Why did he fear losing Nira? Because in just 1 week she had become important to him. The fears were still unpleasant, but understanding them made them manageable. When the 30 minutes ended and the gymnasium reappeared, Jiho felt drained but intact. Commander Kale stared at him in surprise. "You remained conscious the entire time. How?" "I stopped fighting the fears and started thinking about why I had them," Jiho explained, standing up shakily. "Understanding something makes it less scary." Interesting approach. Most beings try to suppress or overcome their fears. You chose to embrace them. Commander Kale made a note on his tablet. "You passed the first trial. The second trial took place the next day in the engineering building." Commander Kale led them to a room filled with holographic displays and control panels. "The trial of tactical thinking," he announced. "You must solve a military scenario that has puzzled Valerian strategists for decades. You have 2 hours." The holographic display showed a space battle frozen in time. Valerian ships faced an enemy fleet near a planet's surface. Numbers and tactical data scrolled past in symbols Jiho couldn't read. "I can't read Valerian military notation," Jiho protested. "The translation device will help," Commander Kale replied. "But the scenario remains the same. How do you defeat an enemy force twice your size when retreat is impossible?" Jiho studied the display for several minutes, trying to understand the tactical situation. The Valerian ships were caught between the enemy fleet and the planet's gravity well. Conventional wisdom said they should fight their way out or surrender. But both options led to heavy casualties. As he examined the setup more closely, Jiho noticed something the Valerian strategists might have missed. They were thinking like space warriors, focused on ship-to-ship combat. But Jiho was thinking like a human who had grown up watching movies and playing video games. "What if they don't fight the enemy fleet directly?" he asked. "Explain," Commander Kale said. "The enemy is positioned here above the planet. The Valerian ships are here, caught in the gravity well. But look at this." Jiho pointed to the planet itself. "It has 3 moons and an asteroid belt. What if the Valerian ships use the planet's gravity to slingshot around to the far side, pick up some asteroids, and then come back with improvised kinetic weapons?" Commander Kale frowned. "That would take hours. The enemy would simply follow them. Not if they think the Valerians are retreating. Look, the enemy formation is designed to prevent escape, not to defend against someone coming back. If the Valerian ships run away convincingly enough, the enemy fleet will probably reposition to patrol the area or land troops on the planet." Jiho used the holographic controls to demonstrate his plan. Then the Valerian ships come back from an unexpected angle, moving fast because of the gravity assist, with asteroid projectiles that don't show up on energy sensors. Even if it doesn't destroy the enemy fleet, it would disrupt their formation enough for the Valerians to escape or call for reinforcements. The room was quiet for a long moment. Commander Kyle ran Jiho's scenario through the tactical computer, and the projection showed it working with an 87% success rate. "This strategy violates 17 principles of Valerian military doctrine," Commander Kale said slowly. "Is that bad?" "No, it's brilliant. Our doctrine assumes enemies will behave rationally and predictably. Your plan succeeds because it appears irrational until the final moment." Commander Kyle looked genuinely impressed. "You think like someone who expects opponents to underestimate you. Very useful. Do-hyun, who had been watching from the gallery, cheered loudly. Other human students joined in, while the Valerian observers exchanged surprised murmurs. "You passed the second trial," Commander Kale announced. The third trial was scheduled for the following evening, but Commander Kale wouldn't reveal what it involved. Jiho spent the day trying to study, but he couldn't concentrate. Nira seemed equally nervous, barely eating and constantly checking the time. "What do you think the last trial will be?" Jiho asked her during lunch. "The trial of emotional stability," Nira replied quietly. "It tests your ability to maintain rational thought under extreme emotional stress." "What kind of stress?" "I don't know. It varies depending on the individual." Nira picked at her food. "Jiho, you've already proven more than I thought possible. If you fail this trial, I won't blame you." "I'm not going to fail," Jiho said with more confidence than he felt. "We've come this far." That evening, they gathered in the same gymnasium as the first trial. But this time, the device looked different. Smaller, more complex, with crystal components that glowed with soft light. "The trial of emotional stability," Commander Kale announced. "This device will force you to experience the strongest possible emotional connection with another being, then threaten to sever it permanently. Most individuals become irrational when faced with the loss of such a bond." Jiho felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean, strongest possible emotional connection?" "The device will artificially amplify your existing bond with Nira to maximum intensity. You will experience love, trust, and emotional dependence far beyond normal human capacity. Then you will be forced to choose between keeping that connection and saving her life." "That sounds like torture," Do-hyun called out from the crowd. "It is a test," Commander Kale replied coldly. "The question is whether the human can make rational decisions while experiencing emotions that would drive most beings insane." Jiho looked at Nira, who had gone very pale. "What happens to her during this?" "She experiences the same amplified bond. The test affects both participants equally." "Then we're both at risk?" "Yes, but if either of you fails to remain rational, the test is considered failed by both." Commander Kale's expression was stern. "This is your final chance to withdraw. After this point, there is no going back." Jiho thought about everything that had brought him to this moment. A week ago, he had been a normal student looking forward to studying alien biology. Now he was risking psychological trauma to protect someone he barely knew, but had somehow become essential to his life. "I'm ready," he said. The device activated, and immediately Jiho felt something overwhelming flood through his mind. Every emotion he had ever felt about Nira, gratitude, affection, protectiveness, curiosity, suddenly multiplied by 1,000. The connection between them became so intense it was almost physical, like a cord of light linking their hearts. He could feel Nira's emotions too. News of Jiho and Nira's successful bonding spread faster than either of them expected. Within a week, their story had reached the Galactic Federation Council, and suddenly their quiet dormitory room became the center of unprecedented scientific and political interest. 17 different species have requested permission to study your bond. Yuna informed them during an emergency meeting in her office. The Federation Council is treating this as a potential breakthrough in interspecies relations. Jiho looked overwhelmed. "Study us how?" "Brain scans, psychological evaluations, genetic compatibility testing." Yuna consulted her tablet. "There's also a request from the Thraxian Empire to see if their species could form similar bonds with humans." "The Thraxians?" Nira's silver skin paled. "They're the most aggressive species in the Federation. If they learn to bond with humans, they could use human emotional intelligence to improve their military strategies," Jiho finished. "That's not good." "It gets more complicated," Yuna continued. "Commander Kale's report has caused a political crisis on the Valerian homeworld. Half the government wants to study human-Valerian cooperation, while the other half considers your bond an insult to Valerian superiority." Do-hyun, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, suddenly spoke up. "There's something else you need to know. I've been monitoring the university network. Some of the data about your bond trials has been leaked. Other human students are asking to participate in bonding experiments with their alien roommates. Has anyone tried it?" Jiho asked. 3 attempts so far. 1 partial success with a Carillion student. They're the blue-skinned ones with the mathematical minds. The human involved was an engineering major named Minho. Their bond isn't as strong as yours, but it's definitely real." Nira leaned forward with interest. What kind of bond did they form? Intellectual rather than emotional. The Carillion helps Minho solve complex equations, and Minho helps the Carillion understand human creativity. They're calling it a cognitive partnership. And the other attempts? Yuna asked. Dohyun's expression darkened. One failure with a Zentori. Apparently their species can't form bonds with non-telepaths. And one problematic situation with a hegemony exchange student. Define problematic, Jiho said. The hegemony student tried to use the bonding process to influence the human's behavior. It was more like attempted mind control than partnership. Security had to intervene. Yuna made notes on her tablet. This is exactly what the council was worried about. If bonding becomes widespread without proper safeguards, it could be used for exploitation or worse. A soft chime indicated someone at Yuna's office door. She checked her monitor and frowned. It's Dr. Zenright from the Federation Scientific Council. She's early. The woman who entered was human, but she wore the formal robes of a Federation official. She was middle-aged with sharp eyes and an authoritative manner that reminded Jiho of his most demanding professors. Ms. Lee, thank you for arranging this meeting. Dr. Zenright's gaze fell on Jiho and Nira. And you must be our famous bonded pair. I'm Dr. Sarah Zenright, Special Advisor on Interspecies Relations. Famous? Jiho asked. Your bond is being studied by xenobiologists across the galaxy. The implications are staggering. Dr. Zenright sat down and opened a briefcase filled with data tablets. May I speak frankly? Please do, Nira said. The Federation is facing a crisis. We have 47 member species, but true cooperation is limited by biological and psychological incompatibilities. Most aliens can work together, but they can't truly understand each other. Your bond suggests that humans might be the key to solving this problem. How so? Jiho asked. Human neural plasticity is unique. Your brains adapt to new situations in ways that most species cannot. Combined with your emotional intelligence and social flexibility, this makes you potentially compatible with a wide range of alien psychologies. Dr. Zenright activated one of her tablets, showing a complex diagram. Our preliminary analysis suggests that humans could serve as diplomatic bridges and warming temporary or permanent bonds with representatives from different species to facilitate understanding and cooperation. That sounds like we'd be used as living diplomatic tools, Jiho said uncomfortably. Not used. Employed. Voluntarily. With appropriate compensation and protections. Dr. Zenright leaned forward. Think about it. Wars have been fought over misunderstandings between species. If human bonding could prevent even one conflict, it would save millions of lives. Nira had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. What about the risks? Bonding isn't simple. It requires emotional compatibility and genuine mutual respect. You can't force it. Absolutely correct. Which is why we need to study successful bonds like yours to understand the necessary conditions. Dr. Zenright turned to Jiho. Would you be willing to participate in a controlled research program? We would monitor your bond, document the bonding process with other species, and develop guidelines for safe bonding practices. What would that involve? Jiho asked. Living in a Federation research facility for 6 months, psychological and medical monitoring, attempts to form secondary bonds with volunteers from other species, under strict supervision, of course. Secondary bonds? Nira's voice was sharp.
Jiho already has a primary bond with me.
Creating others could damage our connection. Our research suggests human bonding capacity might be much greater than Valerian capacity. Humans might be able to maintain multiple bonds simultaneously without interference. Jiho felt a chill. You want to turn me into some kind of diplomatic experiment? I want to help you discover your full potential while serving the greater good, Dr. Zenright corrected. But the choice is entirely yours. Before Jiho could respond, Yuna's communication device buzzed urgently. She answered it, and her face went pale as she listened. What is it? Dr. Zenright asked. There's been an incident at the engineering building. The Carillion human pair we mentioned. Their bond has destabilized. Both students are in the medical center. They rushed across campus to find chaos at the medical facility. Minho, the human engineering student, was unconscious on one bed while his Carillion partner, whose name was something unpronounceable that sounded like Zek, was conscious but clearly in distress. What happened? Dr. Zenright demanded of the attending physician. We're not sure. The bond was stable for 3 days. Then suddenly both students collapsed during a joint problem-solving session. The human appears to be in some kind of neural feedback loop, while the Carillion is experiencing severe cognitive dissonance. Jiho looked at the unconscious Minho and felt a stab of fear. Could this happen to us? Unknown, the physician replied. Your bond is fundamentally different, emotional rather than purely intellectual. But we can't rule out similar risks. Nira took Jiho's hand. We need to understand what went wrong before agreeing to any research programs. Dr. Zenwright was examining medical readouts with growing concern. The Carillion's brain patterns show signs of incompatible information processing. It's as if their mind is trying to think like a human and a Carillion simultaneously, but the two modes are contradictory. So the bond created a conflict in their thinking? Jiho asked. Possibly. Or perhaps the bond was forced rather than natural. Unlike your connection, theirs was deliberately created through technological intervention. Over the next few hours, they watched the medical team work to stabilize both students. Eventually, Minho regained consciousness, but he seemed disoriented and confused. Zek recovered more quickly but reported feeling fractured mentally. The bond will have to be severed, the lead physician concluded. It's causing more harm than benefit. As they watched the bonding dissolution procedure, Jiho felt Nira's grip on his hand tighten. The process looked traumatic for both species involved. That could be us, she whispered. No, Jiho said firmly. Our bond formed naturally. It's different, but privately he wasn't sure. The sight of Minho's confused expression and Zek's obvious distress made him question everything they thought they knew about human bonding capacity. Later that evening, back in their dormitory room, Jiho and Nira sat together trying to process the day's events. Dr. Zenwright wants an answer about the research program, Jiho said. What do you think we should do? I think we should be very careful, Nira replied. The Federation sees potential benefits, but they don't understand the personal costs. To them, we're interesting subjects. To us, our bond is our life, Jiho nodded. But if we don't participate, they might experiment on other humans. And those experiments might not go as well as ours did. True. But if we do participate and something goes wrong, we could end up like Minho and Zek. They sat in thoughtful silence for several minutes. Finally, Jiho spoke again. What if we found a middle ground? We could work with Dr. Zenwright to develop safety protocols without submitting to extensive experimentation ourselves. How? By studying our bond from the outside rather than trying to replicate it. Document what makes it work, identify the warning signs we saw with Minho and Zek, and create guidelines for safe bonding practices. Nira considered this. We could insist on control over the research parameters. No forced bonding attempts, no separation trials, no experiments that risk our connection. And we could help train other human-alien pairs to recognize healthy versus unhealthy bonding patterns. 6 months after their first meeting, Jiho Kim stood in what used to be the university's smallest lecture hall, now transformed into the Federation's first interspecies bonding research center. The room buzzed with activity as humans and aliens worked together on projects that would have been impossible just a year ago. The success rate is now up to 73%. Dr. Zenwright reported during their weekly briefing. And more importantly, we haven't had any serious incidents since we implemented your safety protocols. Jiho nodded as he reviewed the data on his tablet. The preparation program they had designed required potential bonding partners to undergo 3 weeks of cultural education, psychological compatibility testing, and supervised interaction before attempting any form of mental connection. It was working better than anyone had expected. What about the new species applications? Nira asked from her position at the monitoring station. Over the past months, she had become expert at reading the biofeedback patterns that indicated healthy versus problematic bonding attempts. 14 new species have requested inclusion in the program, Dr. Zenwright replied. The Altarians are particularly interested. Apparently their collective consciousness structure might be compatible with human empathic responses. Do-hyun looked up from his workstation where he was calibrating bonding, measurement equipment. His own cognitive partnership with Zara, a Carillion mathematician, had become one of the program's most successful examples of intellectual bonding. The Altarians worry me, he said. A collective consciousness could overwhelm a human mind. We should start with limited contact protocols. Agreed, Jiho said. Let's add them to the extended preparation track. The extended track was their innovation for species with particularly complex or potentially dangerous bonding requirements. It involved 6 weeks of preparation instead of 3, plus simulated bonding experiences using Federation technology. Speaking of extended preparation, Dr. Zenright continued, Commander Kale has arrived with the new Valerian volunteers. Apparently, word of your success has convinced some of his people that humans might make valuable bonding partners after all. Jiho smiled. Commander Kale had become an unexpected ally once he realized that human-Valerian cooperation could benefit both species. The commander's reports to the Valerian High Council had been instrumental in changing official attitudes toward humans. How many volunteers? Nira asked. 6. All volunteers from Valerian diplomatic and scientific divisions. They're specifically interested in learning human creative problem-solving techniques. The door chimed, and Commander Kyle entered with a group of young Valerians. They looked nervous but determined, very different from the arrogant aliens Jiho had imagined when he first heard about the exchange program. Commander, Jiho greeted him formally. Welcome back, Jiho, Nira. Commander Kale nodded to both of them. I present the second wave of Valerian exchange participants. They have all volunteered specifically for human bonding studies. One of the young Valerians stepped forward. She was smaller than Nira, with intricate patterns etched into her silver skin that indicated high social rank. I am Lyra of the 6th House, she said in careful English. I study conflict resolution theory. I hope to learn human negotiation methods that do not rely on dominance hierarchies. Another volunteer, a male with broader shoulders and military bearing, spoke next. I am Reth of the 2nd House. I study tactical applications of emotional intelligence in military contexts. Jiho exchanged a look with Nira. These Valerians were here for professional reasons, not personal ones. It represented a significant shift in how their species viewed human capabilities. Welcome to the program, Jiho said. Dr. Zenright will explain our preparation protocols. But first I want to make something clear. Bonding isn't a tool or a technique you can learn. It's a relationship that requires genuine mutual respect and understanding. We understand, Lyra replied. Commander Kale's reports have been very thorough. We know that successful bonding cannot be forced or faked. Over the next hour, they explained the program structure to the new arrivals. The Valerians would be paired with human volunteers who had already completed the preparation course. Together, they would spend 3 weeks learning about each other's cultures, psychology, and communication styles before attempting any bonding procedures. The key is patience, Nira explained to the group. My bond with Jiho formed naturally because we spent time together without pressure. Forced bonding attempts always fail. What about the humans who will be working with us? Reth asked. Are they prepared for Valerian psychology? They'd better be, Do-hyun said with a grin. We put them through the same 3-week course, but from the other direction. They've learned Valerian customs, social hierarchies, and communication patterns. A few of them can even perform proper honor greetings. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent chime from the communication system. Dr. Zenright answered it, and her expression grew serious as she listened. What is it? Jiho asked. Emergency session of the Federation Council. There's been a development with the hegemony. The hegemony was the Federation's most problematic member species. Aggressive, hierarchical, and constantly testing the limits of acceptable behavior. Their previous attempt to exploit human bonding had been one of the program's worst failures. What kind of development? Nira asked. They're demanding access to human bonding technology. They claim that restricting it to certain species violates Federation equality principles. Jiho felt a chill. The hegemony's previous bonding attempt had been essentially mind control. They had tried to use the process to make a human student loyal to their interests rather than creating a genuine partnership. They can't force us to work with them, can they? He asked. Legally, they can make a case, Dr. Zenright replied. The Federation Charter guarantees equal access to scientific developments. If we deny them participation, they could claim discrimination. But they've already proven they can't bond safely with humans, Do-hyun protested. Their last attempt nearly caused permanent psychological damage. That's our argument, Dr. Zenright said. But the hegemony is claiming they've developed new techniques that address the previous problems. Commander Kale, who had been listening silently, suddenly spoke up. There may be a solution. A way to satisfy their legal claim while protecting human safety? What do you mean? Jiho asked. Challenge protocols. In Valerian law, when the safety of bonding partners is in question, either party can demand trial bonding under controlled conditions. If the trial fails, the challenging party is barred from further attempts. Would that work under Federation law? Dr. Zenright asked. It should. The Federation Charter recognizes member species bonding traditions as legitimate legal frameworks. Jiho looked at Nira, who was frowning thoughtfully. What would a trial bonding involve? A single bonding attempt under maximum safety conditions, Commander Kale explained. Multiple monitoring systems, immediate medical intervention available, and automatic termination if any signs of coercion or mental damage are detected. Who would volunteer for something like that? Do-hyun asked. It sounds incredibly dangerous. It would have to be someone with extensive bonding experience, Dr. Zenright said slowly. Someone who understands the warning signs and could resist coercion attempts. The room fell silent as everyone realized who she was looking at. No, Nira said firmly. Absolutely not. I won't let Jiho risk his mental health to prove a point to the hegemony. It might be the only way to protect other humans, Jiho said quietly. If we don't do this, the hegemony could force access to inexperienced volunteers. Then we fight it in Federation court, Nira replied. We document their previous failure and argue for permanent exclusion, which could take years, Dr. Zenright pointed out. And during that time, they could continue pressing for access. Commander Kale stepped forward. There is another option. Valerian law allows for a proxy challenge. If Nira were to formally adopt Jiho into her house, she could demand the trial bonding be conducted with a Valerian volunteer instead of a human. Adopt him into my house? Nira looked surprised. That's a very serious commitment. It would make him legally Valerian for purposes of Federation law. What would that mean for us? Jiho asked. Permanent citizenship rights on both Earth and Valeria, legal protection under both species' laws, and formal recognition of our bond as equivalent to marriage in both cultures. Jiho felt his heart skip. They had never discussed marriage or permanent legal commitment. Their bond was deep and meaningful, but this would make it official in ways they hadn't considered. We don't have to decide right now, Dr. Zenright said, noticing their expressions. The Federation Council won't meet until next week, but we need to have a response ready. Over the next few days, Jiho and Nira discussed their options extensively. The adoption into Valerian nobility would protect Jiho from the hegemony challenge while formally recognizing their partnership. But it also represented a permanent commitment that went far beyond their original exchange program arrangement. Are you sure about this? Jiho asked as they walked through the university gardens on a quiet evening. Adoption into your house means I'd be part of your family forever. Your relatives, your social obligations, your political connections.